Your 4-year-old is on the kitchen floor, completely melted down because you cut their sandwich the wrong way. And instead of sending them to their room or telling them to stop crying, you get down on the floor with them. You take a breath. You say, "I can see you're really upset right now. That felt really wrong to you, didn't it?" And it works not immediately, but it works. Later, your own mother calls and says, "I don't understand why you talk to them like that. We never did all that with you." And you don't know how to explain it. You just know, somewhere deep in your bones, that the way you were raised left marks, and you are determined to do something different. If that moment felt familiar, you are not alone. Millions of Gen Z parents are quietly rewriting the entire rulebook of childhood, not out of rebellion, but out of something much more honest. And by the time you finish watching this, you'll understand exactly why, and exactly how to keep doing it in a way that actually works for your child's developing brain. Stay with Mind Root Parenting until the very end, because what unfolds in this video might quietly change the way you show up for your child every single day for the rest of their life. Here's the tension that so many Gen Z parents are living in right now. You are trying to raise emotionally healthy children, while simultaneously healing from a childhood where your own emotions weren't always welcomed. You're doing therapy, reading the books, listening to the podcasts, and you are genuinely trying. But some days it is exhausting. Some days you lose your patience and raise your voice, and then spiral into guilt for the next 3 hours wondering if you've just undone everything. Some days your own parents or in-laws look at your gentle approach and call it weak, or permissive, or over-the-top sensitive, and a small, tired part of you wonders, am I making this too complicated? Did the old way actually work just fine? The answer to that is nuanced, and it matters. Because the struggle you're feeling isn't a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's a sign that you are doing something genuinely hard. You're trying to give your child something you had to figure out for yourself, much later in life. That kind of conscious parenting takes enormous energy. And it deserves to be understood, not dismissed. So why are Gen Z parents parenting so differently? Part of it is access. This generation grew up with the internet, and with it came an explosion of research in developmental psychology that previous generations simply didn't have at their fingertips. But it goes deeper than information. Many Gen Z parents are the first generation to do widespread therapy in their 20s. Which means they entered parenthood already fluent in concepts like emotional dysregulation, attachment wounds, and nervous system responses. They recognized, before their child was even born, that the "because I said so" model had costs they were still paying. Here's what the psychology actually tells us. A young child's prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic, impulse control, and emotional regulation, is not fully developed until the mid-20s. This is not a metaphor. It is literal neuroscience. When your child is screaming on that kitchen floor, they are not being manipulative. They are having a neurological event that their brain does not yet have the wiring to manage alone. What they need in that moment is co-regulation, which means a calm, present adult nervous system close enough to help their dysregulated ones settle down. This is attachment theory in real time. When a caregiver consistently responds to distress with warmth instead of punishment, they create a safe and nurturing environment for the child to grow and develop. The child's brain learns that the world is safe, that emotions are survivable, and that relationships are trustworthy. That internal model follows them into adulthood. It shapes their friendships, their partnerships, their relationship with themselves. Gen Z parents know this not always by name, but in feeling, because they are actively doing the work of rebuilding those internal models in themselves. The first thing that makes this style of parenting sustainable is learning to separate your child's behavior from your child's worth, and doing that out loud. In the moment, when a child hears "I love you" and "this behavior is not okay," they receive something incredibly powerful. The message that they are safe, even when they are imperfect. That safety is not softness. It is the foundation of every boundary you will ever set. In practice, this sounds like saying, "You're not in trouble, but we need to talk about what just happened," instead of leading with consequences while emotions are still running high. It sounds like waiting until the storm has passed, until your child is back inside what psychologists call their window of tolerance, before you have the teaching conversation. Because a child whose nervous system is flooded literally cannot absorb a lesson in that moment. Their brain is in survival mode. The lesson lands later when they feel safe, when you are calm, and when connection is present. That is not permissiveness, that is timing. And it is far more effective. The second thing is learning how to repair and doing it consistently, even when it feels unnecessary. Gen Z parents are, broadly speaking, the first generation to normalize the repair conversation. And this is genuinely significant. When you lose your patience and raise your voice and then come back to your child and say, "I got really frustrated earlier, and I handled that in a way I'm not proud of. I'm sorry. That wasn't your fault." You are not undermining your authority. You are modeling one of the most important life skills that exists: accountability without self-destruction. Children who grow up watching adults repair relationships develop a completely different internal narrative around conflict. They learn that mistakes don't end love. They learn that you can feel ashamed of something and still come back from it. They learn that the people who love you will still be there after hard moments. Research consistently shows that it's not the absence of rupture in a parent-child relationship that creates security, it's the presence of repair. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You have to be a parent who comes back. The third thing, and this one is specifically for the Gen Z parent who is also healing, is building what you might call an emotional first aid practice for yourself. You cannot co-regulate your child when your own nervous system is in freefall. This is not a judgment. It is physiology. When you are triggered, when your child's meltdown is landing on top of your own unprocessed childhood experiences, your capacity to respond rather than react shrinks dramatically. This is why so many parents describe saying things in hard parenting moments that sound exactly like what was said to them, even when they swore they never would. The practical version of this is small and consistent, not dramatic. It is knowing your own early warning signs: the tightness in your chest, the shortness in your voice before you reach the point of explosion. It is having a 3-second physical reset: feet on the floor, slow exhale, one grounding thought. It is having the honest conversation with a co-parent or a trusted person about which specific situations send you to that place. Because when you know your triggers, you can plan around them. And that self-awareness, practiced quietly and consistently, is one of the most protective things you can offer your child. You are not overthinking this. You are not being too sensitive, or too soft, or too much. You are doing the hard, quiet, generation-changing work of raising a child who will know in their body, not just their mind, that they are loved exactly as they are. That work matters more than any parenting trend, any critic, any moment where you felt like you got it wrong. The fact that you're here, asking these questions, trying this hard, that already tells your child something they will carry for the rest of their life.